Hello, everyone. It's your favorite former U.S. men's national team player, Jimmy Conrad. And I think I should start my speech, as it were, with me defining what I believe resilience is. And when you strip everything away, expectations, pressure, all that type of stuff, all the emotion surrounding you reaching your goals, your objective, it feels like it's about hanging around and hanging in there and giving yourself a chance, having a little bit of that belief and that desire to continue to go in the direction that you want to go in when everything is telling you that you shouldn't, or maybe you should reconsider. Now, sometimes that comes from someone that you know and love who is giving you that advice, and that hurts a little bit more because you want them to buy into your dream. Or it might be nonverbal type stuff, seeing body language, people reacting to you and what you're trying to accomplish in a way that can't be construed as positive. So I think that resilience for me is hanging around, hanging in there, and continuing to try to get better than you were the day before. I think that's when I really started to take big steps in my career. And in some ways, I want to reverse engineer this because I can't even believe I accomplished what I accomplished. And so when you hear it, it's almost like we're talking about somebody else at this point. So there have been less than 40 people in this country on the men's side of the game that have ever captained the U.S. men's national team 5 or more times. I'm one of those 40 people, or less than 40 people. In MLS, I played 12 years in MLS. 6-time MLS All-Star, MLS Defender of the Year, 2009 Humanitarian of the Year for the league. My mom is so proud of me. But I was also a 4-time MLS Best 11. When you go look at the stats, only 14 players in the history of the league have gotten MLS Best 11 4 or more times. I'm one of those 14. I can't believe it either. Also, I played in a World Cup for the U.S. in 2006. It was the one after we got to the quarterfinals in 2002, and everybody thought, oh, we're cooking with gas. We're going to start winning World Cups. I was part of the next iteration after 2002. That crashed out in the group stages. I don't really want to talk about it. This isn't a therapy session about that particular failure as a group. But on a personal level, I got to hang and prove myself against some of the best players in the world, including Italy. It was a 1-1 draw. I came on pretty much right after halftime and held on. We were down a player in that one. They had a red card. We had 2 red cards. So it was 10 versus 9 for about 40 minutes, and I went on to try to maintain that 1-1 scoreline, and we did. It was the only team. We were the only team that did not lose to Italy in that World Cup, that they ended up going on to beat France in penalties in the final. But it was a big moment for me because it really validated all that hard work and sacrifice and belief that I had in myself. And obviously those close to me, I had tremendous support from my loved ones. Even though I'm sure at times they're like, I don't know, are you sure? You know, you should get your degree. You should go and do all that good stuff. But I learned, as I'm sure many of you have learned along the way, that it's not you versus anybody else. It's you versus you. And that's a different type of resilience, to understand that and to understand that you can only control what you can control. And you have to try to maximize those areas as opposed to getting caught up in stuff that doesn't really matter or that you don't have any impact on. Now, there are obviously some ripple effects to certain things you can do that could impact behavior, but ultimately all you can control is your attitude and your performance. And so once I started to really understand that and grasp that, my whole career changed. And one of the stories that I want to share was when I was 15, 16 years old. I was at a club tournament, and our coach pulled Louis Balboa out of nowhere. And for those that don't know Louis Balboa, his son, Marcelo Balboa, played in 2 World Cups for us in 90 and 94. And when he came over, reluctantly, I think there was a big demand on his time, right? Anytime you see a coach or a parent that obviously has a successful son or a successful daughter, you want to know what the secret was. Like, how did they do it? So when he came over, he was like, hey, anybody have any questions? My arm shot up. It's like, yes. How did Marcelo Balboa play in 2 World Cups? I mean, personally, I would give you a 25 to 30-minute answer. But he looked at me and he said he went to the park and worked on his game every day for 2 hours. And then he moved on to the next question. And it absolutely blew my mind. Because at that moment, the light bulb and the light bulb switched on. I realized, and I wasn't even listening to any of the other questions or answers at this point. I realized at that point, it was up to me to decide how good I was going to be at anything and not anybody else. It was incredibly empowering. And so I took that and I thought, okay, good. I'm going to go to the park and work on my game every day for 2 hours. So the next day, I went to the local school. They have a wall, which is great because a wall is very impactful in terms of developing your skills and your touch and all that stuff. But I didn't know what to work on. So I went and I was like, okay, I got this ball. I got a wall. Now what? Do I just stand here for 2 hours and I will magically become Marcelo Balboa, who I still look up to, by the way? And I've since told him this story, and he's relayed it to his dad, which is super cool. Anyway, staying on target, because I do go off on tangents. I get out there, and I realize I don't know what to do. And I thought, okay, fine. I'm right-footed. I should probably work on my left foot. That seems pretty obvious. So I start working on my left foot, and I'm terrible. Awful. And I was embarrassed. Now imagine the level of embarrassment that you have to have when you're feeling that way, and there's nobody watching. Usually you're embarrassed because somebody saw you do something that you look like an idiot. There was nobody around. It was just me being embarrassed for me. And that in itself was really powerful as well, because I had to be a lot more thoughtful in terms of my self-evaluation about how good I really was and where I wanted to go and what I needed to do to get there. But in that moment, I went home. After 10 minutes, and you're walking back and you're like, I'm just going to go play video games with my friends. That's a lot easier than trying to get better at something. But to my credit, I went back out there. And again, it took me a while to get past that 10-minute mark. But I started to develop games. And what's interesting too is that I started to ask my coach for feedback, something I never would have done before. Because when I was getting feedback prior, I took it personally, and it was, I got defensive. You know, you guard your ego, and so when you start to have this flip of your mentality, I had the opportunity now to take feedback and do something actionable with it. So I said, hey, what do you think I could work on with my game? And he would give me feedback. And I would go now use that in my safe place, my safe space to work on my game without any judgment, without anybody watching, giving myself room to make mistakes. And there was no buzz phrase of growth mindset at that point, but I was developing a growth mindset. And one of the things that I would do to motivate was, what is a kid my age doing right now? How long are they working on their game? And I would guess in my head, it's Wednesday night. They probably had school. Maybe they have some practice. I bet you they're only doing 20 to 30 minutes. And I'm out here for 45. And so I would figure out different ways to continue to go. And then all of a sudden, what is the ultimate buy-in on a personal level, I started to go to my practice with my team. And all of a sudden, the game was getting a little bit easier. And everything was just slowing down for me. And I was less frantic when I got the ball. And I was very confident in my first touch. And when you have a very confident first touch in this particular sport, it makes the game infinitely, yeah, whatever. I make up words. Well, I don't make up words. Well, I do those too. Anyway, you guys know what I'm trying to say. It made it infinitely easier for me to do the things, that's like this next level of decision making that I didn't do consistently before. And then people be like, dude, you're getting better. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I didn't want to tell anybody my secret. And what's funny is that now when parents or kids come up and ask me what my secret was, there is no secret. You just have to put the work in. But that's the last thing people want to hear. Everybody's looking for a shortcut. And there is no shortcut. That's the secret. So it was really impactful for me. And then what you understand too is that, okay, I'm just working on the soccer side of things, really on the technical side. Once you get very competent on the technical side, you can then start to really absorb the tactical side, because now you're actually capable of doing X, Y, or Z, whereas before you're just kind of trapping it and trying to get it to the next person without turning the ball over. And now you could advance tactics or whatever. You start to see the game in a much different way. But as you do that, you start to realize, wow, I if I put this much time in and I'm getting better, and I started to take big steps past my teammates and really started to create an identity of who I wanted to be. And it was really powerful. And it laid the foundation, I should say, for how I was going to address and work through any adversity. And that was really important. And I'll get into my professional career in a second, but then to get back to this, the technical side, okay, helped my tactical side. But then I'm like, what if I started running a little bit more? I bet you that would help too. So I started to add the physical component. I started to run at the local high school with a weight vest, right? And just push it as hard as I could. I'd run steps, I'd do hops, I'd do all kinds of crazy stuff. I was just trying to get as much feedback as I possibly could from people that were in the professional environment and college environment or whatever it is, or my club coach, and just absorb. And at that time, you couldn't watch games as easily as you can now, but I would try to go watch games live. I'd go watch UCLA, which was my dream school. So imagine I go into high school and I end up being the key guy and have a crazy senior year, but don't get recruited at all. I wanted to go to UCLA. It was my dream school. I saw Kobe Jones play there, Joe Max Moore, Brad Friedel, Ziggy Schmidt was the coach. Like, I really wanted to play for these guys. It's like, that was it. There was no MLS at the time, so that was like the top. I ended up getting a scholarship of books to San Diego State because my club coach, who clearly believed in me, talked Chuck Clegg, the San Diego State coach, into taking me sight unseen, which is crazy. No coach would ever do that in 100 million years, but he did. And then he just played me all over the place. I couldn't really find my confidence, and after 2 years, I was ready to transfer. There's a lot to unpack there, but let's get to the fun part. I ended up calling all these coaches nearby cold, and I called Ziggy Schmidt at UCLA and said I was looking to transfer. I've got a lot of Division I experience. I probably played 30 games over 2 years, and I thought that might be enough to warrant some consideration. And after some back and forth, he finally said, listen, I'll get you into school. Your grades are good enough, but I'm only going to give you 1 week to try out. So you can leave. Now my scholarship had gone up a little bit. You can leave that scholarship at San Diego State and take this chance, or best of luck to you. And I was like, I'm in. Now my parents were, what are you doing? San Diego State's much cheaper. You're getting some scholarship money. Now you're going to UC school, which is much more expensive, on a 1 week chance to make the team? Are you insane? I was like, yes, I'm insane, and I'm definitely doing this. And I made the team after 1 week, the first walk-on to start the first game of the season since Kobe Jones. And then I was in and out of the lineup. That was like my big claim to fame, and then I was in and out of the lineup. And so going to my senior year, I was sitting on the bench going into the playoffs. The guy ahead of me, Kevin Coy, tears his knees out for the season. And so I go in. We win the national championship. Unbelievable scenes. I should get you my ring. Hold on. It's right here. Yeah, it's right here. And you can't see it because it's all... You know what? You just have to trust me. It's really pretty, and it says UCLA, and it has some diamonds in it. And that was incredible. I won the national championship with my dream school. But now MLS started, and now there was something else to aspire to. So I thought, maybe I should try to do that. That sounds... I'll give it a shot. So I thought for sure I was going to get drafted in MLS. I was on the best Division I college school in the country. We just won it. You had whole evidence, body of evidence. That was a key member of that. And the other 4 seniors got drafted, and I didn't. So anyway, I went and trained with the Galaxy for a little bit in MLS, then went down to the lower leagues in San Diego, back to San Diego. I played 1 year in the A-League, which is comparable to USL Championship, USL League One. I played 30 games in 6 months, played against some Mexican league teams, got a ton of experience, made $800 a month, slept on floors, trained with the team in the morning, trained by myself, and did all my stuff. Added a tennis ball to different things to try to continue to elevate, ran the beach a lot, ran hills, anything I could do to continue to gain that edge, competitive advantage. And I learned how to be a pro, and I learned if I really wanted it or not. At that point, it wasn't about money, it wasn't about fame, it wasn't about girls, it wasn't about any of that stuff. It's just, can I do it? And the next year I got called up by San Jose, and I signed with them. Played 4 years there, won MLS Cup, When I was 23, thought I was going to win 7 or 8 or more of those. Only won that one. Went over to Kansas City, got traded, played there for 8 years, and 6-time MLS All-Star, played in the World Cup, and all the other good stuff that I said. I was in video games, on Frosted Flakes box, all this crazy stuff. And I say this because it's only due to the fact that I worked a little bit harder than everybody else. It wasn't due to talent. My talent was commitment and an ability to deal with adversity in a positive way. And so when we talk about resilience, I feel like I personify it, or my playing career, I personified it. And so if anybody tells you that it's not possible, I'm living proof that they're wrong.